If you're in charge of group games, you have got a job on your hands, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Let's cover the reasons and some best practices for game time so that you can lead it with confidence and purpose. All right, let's start out with our goal for game time. Believe it or not, we don't do game time because we have nothing better to do. We actually include game time in children's ministry for a reason. Actually, there are several reasons. Most obviously, game time does help kids expend energy in a positive way, which is important for us if we're asking them to sit still for a long time afterwards. It also helps them interact with each other in a different setting. It gives them a venue to express leadership skills, teamwork, sportsmanship, and to even work through conflict with a God-honoring adult nearby to help facilitate. And when used correctly, games can actually help introduce or reinforce important teaching topics. So here are a few practical tips to help ensure a great game time. To start off, it's wise to take a few minutes and think through some obvious but important details. Things like space. How much room do you have? Are you talking a sports field, or are you working in a library? How about number of kids? Do you have a handful of kids, or is it a group of over 100? And do you have a contingency plan if there are more or less kids than you planned for? How about equipment? Do you have what you need for all the game ideas that you have planned? What about level of activity? Will the children be sitting? Are they going to be walking, running, jumping? Here's a quick hint. Don't have them sit for too long. Finally, is there an idea or a main teaching point that you want to share? Now, this part takes a little bit extra effort, but it's worth it. Games can actually become an unforgettable, giant, interactive illustration for a very important point if you put in the work and if you want them to. The good news is it doesn't have to take long. It doesn't have to be super elaborate. You're just simply stating your point at the beginning and then reminding the children at the end can be enough. With a little extra creativity, you can even change up a traditional game to help make it fit your main point. For example, if you're teaching about forgiveness, you could play Forgiveness Freeze Tag, which is where the person who's it is the mistake monster, and everybody they tag is frozen in a mistake that they've made. Okay? And then when some other teammate comes to unfreeze them, the frozen child has to ask for and receive forgiveness. Okay? This is a great way for your kids to role play real life situations without even realizing it. Another idea is if you're studying how God created everything, you could do a relay race, but you could have each child retrieve a piece of something that then the whole team would have to put together at the end. One hurdle with games is being heard above the roar of your adoring fans. Now, with a small group, it's pretty easy to be heard, but if your group is bigger, then most of game time can be spent just trying to get everyone's attention to start game time. You're gonna have to project your voice to make sure that you can be heard above the noise of the crowd. One hack is to use an attention grabber initially to help get the group quiet instead of just trying to shout over the kids. It's a good idea. A whistle or other loud noise will also do the trick. If you don't have a strong voice though, it's a good idea to use an available sound system or invest in a mobile sound system. For that one-time investment, it is definitely going to be worth being heard. After getting the kids' attention, it is time to explain the rules. And you want to keep this part short and sweet because we all know you will lose the children if you go too long. When it comes to younger kids, making the game as simple as possible is a great idea. This is also a great time to introduce or remind them about your main teaching and how it applies to your game. And you want to keep these children moving. Games are one of the few opportunities where the children are allowed to move around, and you want to capitalize on that. You can have some calmer games or parts of games sprinkled in, but you want to be sure to think of plenty of high energy games to help basically wear them out. They've been sitting for most of the day, so you want to get them moving. And as a quick side note, you want to pick games that have as many people moving around as possible at the same time. Playing charades with all the children watching one person is kind of boring, and it will not be as effective as a game like Sharks and Minnows where everyone is involved all the time. Once you explain the game, you can have them try it out, and then you can play it for a few different rounds. Okay, sometimes kids don't get the whole picture until they've done it a couple times. Just remember to keep your rounds pretty short or have immediate consequences for the kids who get out. Otherwise, they'll be sitting there for too long, they might get bored, and they could cause trouble. As a loose rule, you can plan on a child's attention span being about as many minutes long as the child is years old. So that means if you're working with a group of 6 to 8 year olds, then a single game shouldn't take longer than about 6 to 8 minutes. You can plan on changing something up before they lose interest. It's also a good idea to have several extra games ready in case one happens to be a flop. And it's also a good idea to beep beep on that like button if you have found this content useful so far. Okay, super easy and it takes less than a second. Sweet, let's get back to the video. As the game coordinator, your role consists of two main parts. One part, obviously, is to make sure that the children stay safe. But the other part is to keep your eyes open for any teachable moments. Some of the best learning doesn't happen in a classroom. We want to watch for good sportsmanship, praiseworthy qualities, good character, and genuine care. You want to make these things a big deal. Highlight these qualities wherever you see them, and especially if they happen to apply to the main point that you're trying to teach. Now, there will be times when you will have to correct bad character. This doesn't have to be done as a humiliation tactic. Kids showing bad character or poor sportsmanship should be spoken to quietly if possible. Remember, we want to try and praise publicly and then correct privately. And be sure to show genuine love to every child, the angel and the troublemaker alike. Use your words, use your actions to help build up the children. Impactful moments are often the little moments. Small words of encouragement, smiles, high fives. It's the little things that can stay with a child for years. Think about your own childhood. We don't know which seeds are going to take root, so just be sure to plant a lot. And also be sure to listen to and take note of what you hear from the children. If you're hearing the kids mention that a game is boring, instead of seeing that as an attack on your personal game choice, choose to treat it like feedback from a peer. Listen to what the children like, listen to what they don't like. Watch the level of interest as you introduce different types of games. You can start collecting a list of tried and true games that you know the kids love every time. And if you can't do that, at least you can create a list of games you know they don't love. Sharing this list with the rest of your team is going to be a great way to help them with extra ideas for small group activities, and it can be incredibly useful in case someone else needs to sub for the game coordinator position. Despite what most people think, Game Time is an incredible opportunity to show love and support to the children in tangible ways. So put in the work beforehand and enjoy.